Hey, this is Heidi Dawson. If you love all things health and wellness and style of any kind, hang out here with me each week. I'm obsessed with never ending improvement, and it's all in an effort to help each one of us live a wildly successful lifestyle. Subscribe today so you don't miss a thing. Hi, guys. Welcome to episode 462 of the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast. It's good to be with you. So good, especially knowing it's all in an effort to just make life better. Don't you think? I mean, there's a lot of juicy stuff we could be focusing on. I know that. But taking a few minutes each week just to fill our mind with things that set our thoughts on a positive course, even if it's just for 10 minutes. It's helping, I promise you. So thank you for being here and listening. Now, I know the title, How to Mend Any Relationship, is a bold one, but I stand by it, and I'm going to show you what I mean. So stay with me. I was meditating with Jeff Warren in the Calm app this last week, and he had sort of a different take on meditation. And so this morning, he actually had us noticing and grabbing a thought that popped up while we meditated for the day. He wanted us to notice it and look at it, and he wanted us to look at it as if it were a little dancing elf in our mind. Now, his idea was to notice what parts of our mind are visual and what parts respond to verbal. But for me, this meditation actually did something else. I took it in a different direction. I did notice the thoughts and turn them into little dancing elves, but I took it a step further. I interacted in my mind with that little dancing elf. I imagined my little elf as the personified thought. So one of my thoughts that came up was kind of morbid. My husband had heart surgery last week, and I've been worried about him. So I had one of those awful what if thoughts. Do you ever get those? The what if this horrible thing happens thoughts? Yeah, I had one of those. So I pictured that what if thought as a little dancing elf, but he was kind of a marionette, which meant I controlled him in a way. So I let him know how absolutely ridiculous he was. And I actually pictured myself shaking my head and laughing at how absurd the thought was, to the point to where the little dancing elf was no longer morbid. He was agreeing with me of how ridiculous that thought was, and he changed his ways. It worked, I promise. So I continued on with my meditation a few more minutes, and I thought, oh, good, I don't have any other negative thoughts. That's awesome. I'm so happy about that. Usually when I think about or try to think about negative thoughts, I think about my sister that I haven't really been a part of her life for 6 years, and oh boy, there's a negative thought. I didn't want to think that thought, but there it is. And then I remembered, oh, wait a minute. She's a little dancing elf, and her family too. They're all little dancing elves in my mind. But instead of laughing at them like I did the other little elf, I sort of just let them be there and fade away. And I waved at them as they faded away. Not happy about it, but not really sad either, just sort of in acceptance of what is. I went on with my meditation, and I had a few more dancing elves, but not many. It was a really good meditation. I liked the idea of the visual aid of dancing elves. It allows you to notice, but also control the thoughts that you're having. Now, some of you may be thinking that part of that was kind of sad. I mean, you're basically writing off your sister and waving goodbye to your niece and nephew forever. But no. What I'm doing is accepting that the relationship I once had with my sister and her family is no longer possible because they don't want it. And I don't control that, so I just have to accept it. If we ever do have a relationship again, it's going to be totally different. So I accepted the end of one relationship, but we'll always hold the possibility of another one in the future if it becomes available and it's something that they want. And that allows me peace. It allows me the ability to think about my sister in a hopeful way, not in a negative way. Any negative thoughts I have about her, they only affect me, not her. So I'm doing what I can for my own peace. Now, some of you guys are visual like me, and some of you are not visual. And so you're thinking that I have really gone off in left field with this whole dancing elf thing. My husband, Eric, is not visual, so he told me the dancing elves didn't really work for him, and that's okay too. That's what makes the world go round. We're all so different. The variety is refreshing. But we do all have relationships that we deal with in one way or another. If you consider yourself a loner, well, you have a relationship with yourself, so you still are dealing with a relationship. Every relationship we have in life has a version, though, that starts in our head with how we talk to ourselves about that person or the thoughts we have about that person. And those thoughts are very powerful in how the actual relationship is going to be. So you may love your husband, but if your thoughts about him are quietly resentful, that's coming out in the way you treat him. So be super cognizant of any thoughts you have about the people in your life. Think about how different you would treat your husband if your thoughts about him were, he's my best friend, as opposed to he's such a slob or he only cares about himself, he doesn't care about me. We create these relationships in our head with our thoughts, and then kind of unbeknownst to us, we act them out in real life. We do that with everyone, including the thoughts that we have about ourselves. If you have hateful thoughts about yourself, of course, you're going to constantly search for comfort through any way possible. Usually that's food and distraction. If you have hateful thoughts about your coworker, trust me, they feel it. And the way you treat them, even though you try to hide it, the way you treat them is a direct reflection of the thoughts you're having about them. We really can drastically change our relationships by changing our thoughts about the relationship. You see, in life, we have relationships with people, but people change, and so do we. And most of our relationships are going to go through cycles. Some are going to be in your life forever, and they will evolve as you evolve. Others are going to fade in and out, and some will fade out and stay out. The thing you want to make sure of is that the relationship you have with any person, whether they are in your life or not, maybe they've passed away or you still have a relationship in your head with them. Maybe it's your ex and you have to see them periodically. The relationship you have with them in your head is crucial, mainly for you. We're looking for peace in our life. We want relationships that are good for us and good for the other person too. Sometimes people leave us and we don't get to have closure with them. Well, guess what? You don't have to have closure with them. You can give yourself closure in your own mind, all on your own. Sometimes family disappoints you and friends hurt you, and there's nothing you can do about it but allow yourself to have peace anyway. And you do that by accepting what is while working on making a better situation for yourself, whatever that means. And a lot of times it means having a come to Jesus with the thoughts you're having about in your head. You make things worse when you have these awful thoughts. Come to terms with what is and then figure out how best to take care of yourself moving forward. Does that mean taking time away from the relationship a little bit? Does it mean accepting the relationship you once had is over and any new relationship is going to look different? Maybe the relationship needed a fresh start anyway. Whatever the situation is, address it first in your mind. Oh, you just aren't going to believe how powerful that is for our life when we recognize that we can mend any relationship, even if it's just in our head. Now, you may have to mend it while you distance yourself because the relationship is no longer serving you, but that's okay too. Booker T. Washington famously said, "I shall allow no man to belittle my soul by making me hate him." Beautifully said, but he's giving a perfect example of not allowing ourselves to be a victim to someone else by giving them any power over us. So you get yourself solid first by knowing and reminding yourself every day that you're worthy of peace and goodness and abundance and joy and all the good things. And when you do that, you'll no longer tolerate treatment that's not worthy of you. So now you're solid no matter what someone else does. And you love yourself too much to try to be in someone's life that doesn't want you there. Maybe they need to be a little dancing elf that you watch fade away as you bid them farewell. Give yourself that peace. And side note, if someone doesn't want you in their life, then they also don't deserve to be in your life. And I can say that from experience. It doesn't feel good, of course. But what feels worse is losing yourself or trying to shape yourself into a pretzel to be in their life. Don't do that. You're worthy of way more than that. And the Wildly Successful Lifestyle Podcast is always all about handling everything on our end. Everyone has to handle themselves. So you, your mind, your peace, you're in charge of that. Someone can do something awful to you and never say they're sorry, and you can forgive them in your mind. So no apology is necessary from them because it might not come. but you've handled it on your end. That's what this practice is all about. We handle things on our end. We aren't looking for someone else to handle our mindset. They can't. Now, they can be supportive, but they can't do it for you. My husband is the most supportive person in the world, but if I wanted to drive myself insane dwelling on something or someone, there's really nothing he can do to stop me. So I have to be the keeper of my own peace, and he has to do the same for himself. But we support each other, of course. Relationships can have a big effect on our peace, only if we let them. But now we know we don't have to let them. We just have to be the watcher of our thoughts about them. We have the ability to rise above any type of conflict or hurt or disappointment that comes our way in the form of a relationship. My challenge to you is to pick one person who maybe your thoughts about them aren't so great and actively change those thoughts to loving thoughts. It may not be easy at first, but you can do it. You actively think only good things about them, and then notice how changing your thoughts kind of changes the way you view them. You're mending that relationship in real time, even if it's just in your head, which is the most important place for it to mend. You don't control them, but you do control how you respond to them. Like Booker T. Washington said, never allow anyone to belittle your soul by making you hate them. Wish them well and get back to work being the best version of you possible. Share this with 3 of the most supportive people in your life. I love you guys. I'll talk to you in a few days. Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together, and I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.